Welcome once again to Commander by Danon. Today's video is a bit different. About a month ago, I had a video discussing the Spellslinger archetype in Commander. Similarly, this video will also be discussing another archetype near and dear to my heart, Aristocrats. It is also the 300th Commander video that cutestuff and I have put together. So I wanted to thank all of you for helping this channel grow and getting us to 5,000 subscribers. It means the world to me that so many in the community enjoy our content and continue to come back to watch our videos. But before we get started, if you're not already, I'd like to ask you to click that subscribe button. It really does help the channel and it's free. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. The whole reason I started doing Commander content was because of my child. One day we were at our local game store and they borrowed a Spellslinger deck. They know how to play Magic. They've been to a couple of Magic Fests in the past. They have crushed tables before with very silly combos. Repercussion, plus Torbrand, plus Fiery Emancipation, plus Goblin Chainwhirler, but Spellslinger was beyond them. That led me to thinking about the various complexity levels in Commander. So I started doing Commander content talking about the various archetypes and giving examples. But people wanted to see more deck lists, and my channel suffered because of a split focus between anime and manga in some videos, and Commander in others. So I split the channel last February, and Commander by Danon was born. Quick note before we go any further. As I'm sure you've heard by now, this channel is sponsored by Ultimate Guard. Ultimate Guard was made famous by their Boulder, which now come in these lovely two-tone boxes, allowing you to show your guild loyalty. Unless you're a filthy Dimir player who is simply disguising their deck, pretending to be the lawful and righteous Azorius. Find out if your local game store carries the new Ultimate Guard Synergy Boulders, or click on the link down below to order yourself one from Amazon. One more thing before we get started. I've been streaming Final Fantasy XIV over on my other channel, Musings by Danon, every weekday in the afternoons. If you want to pop in and ask some questions, chat about Commander, or just hang out, you're more than welcome to. While discussing the various archetypes and their complexity, I realized that there are three that reign supreme: Spellslinger, Cyclinger Madness, and Aristocrats. Yes, you can make a complicated Voltron deck, but you can also make a simple one. I'm talking about archetypes where there is no way to make it simple. These are decks that confound newer players with insane combos, and there is no way to make them simple. You have to think outside the box, come up with combos on the fly, and dig deep into your dark and evil heart to win games. Aristocrats is complicated because it has many moving parts. You need 3 pieces to function with an Aristocrats deck: creatures to sacrifice, sacrifice outlets, and payoffs for sacrificing those creatures. Most commonly, your payoffs come in the form of damage to one or multiple opponents, along with some incremental life gain. You can focus some of the deck on that life gain, doubling your damage through cards like Veto, Thorn of the Duskrose, or Sanguine Bond. To me, other than budget, there are 4 questions you need to ask yourself when building an Aristocrats deck. 1. What colors will your deck be? 2. Are you mostly sacrificing token creatures or non-token creatures? 3. Are you going for stacks or mid-range? 4. Commander choice. Let's discuss all these options, the pros and cons of each, and how you'll want to adjust your deck building based on those choices. First of all, black is a necessity. Just about every single payoff for sacrificing a creature is either mono black, or Zoth, or Golgari. Now, you don't have to run green or white in your deck list, but you really can't build an Aristocrats deck without black. The other colors are completely up to you, and I'll mention bonuses for running those colors throughout the rest of the video. Token creatures are easy to make, you don't miss them when they die, and you don't care how many get sacrificed. There are tons of token doublers in green, and even a couple in white. White even has a wonderful token modifier in Divine Visitation. Red also has a lot of great token generators, and you can even add more damaging effects from cards like Perforos and Impact Tremors, both of which pair great with token creatures. A lot of blue's token generators are tied to card draw or casting instants and sorceries, so be careful when adding blue to an Aristocrats deck. Because there are so many required pieces in the deck, you might not be running enough spells to trigger Talrand regularly. Now, the disadvantage that tokens have is that you can't get them back from the graveyard. You still get death triggers, but there's no way to recur the creatures after they touch the graveyard. This limits you on card advantage choices, not just on reanimation effects. Almost every single card that says draw a card when a creature dies has the non-token creature limitation on it. Of course, this means you don't need to run a ton of reanimation effects in your token deck. My Kraven Regna deck allows me to put tokens on the battlefield every turn, even on my opponent's turns, so long as both my commanders are on board. I just sack creatures to Krav to gain life and draw cards, then Regna makes more creatures at the end step. The advantage to non-token creatures as sacrifice fodder is that you can reanimate them. If you have a commander like Laisa, Forgotten Archangel, who is seriously one of the strongest aristocrat commanders in the game, you can run a whole bunch of smaller, easier to cast creatures with good end of the battlefield triggers. Sacrifice all of them, then get them back to your hand at your end step to do all over again next turn. So if you're running an Aristocrats deck where you're planning on sacrificing non-token creatures, you probably want to have more than a couple reanimation effects. At least a lot more than you would in a token-focused deck. This one is a little harder to quantify, but for me it comes down to a simple choice. Am I running Grave Pact or Sanguine Bond? Aristocrats as an archetype is designed to run a ton of creatures and then sacrifice them. Chances are we'll have a lot more creatures being sacrificed than our opponents will have creatures in general. Grave Pact and other effects like it can be very oppressive, causing us to become the archenemy, which is fine if that's what you're going for. Cute Stuff is far more evil than I am, and both of her Aristocrats decks contain both Grave Pact and Dictate of Erebos. Meanwhile, I have more fun doubling up the life gain triggers from Aristocrats and running effects like Veto, Thorn of the Duskrose, or Sanguine Bond. If green is in your color identity, then that opens up cards like Dina Soulsteeper. These cards basically double up your Aristocrat triggers the same way Teysa Karlov or Drivnod Carnage Dominus does. Of course, you can run other stacks effects in an Aristocrats deck. For the most part, Aristocrats is a slower strategy. You don't tend to win on turn 5 with a deck that needs so many moving parts, and even then only drains an opponent for 1 damage every time a creature dies. But having the ability to drain them over and over again and slow the game down through stacks effects that don't hurt your strategies, but do slow down your opponents, allow you to be a bit more competitive. Personally, I enjoy the more mid-range type of Aristocrats build. Which leads us to our next topic. My Kraven Regna deck is undefeated if the game goes to at least turn 12, which rarely happens in today's Commander meta. But that's fine. I built it as my 3rd ever Commander deck, behind Locust God and Kalia. Both of those decks are fast and aggressive, and I wanted something slower and more grindy. 11 mana in the command zone means it's going to take a while before my game plan gets going. So I made sure to include lots of reanimation. I brought back Veto a total of 3 times in a single game, much to the chagrin of my opponents. In all seriousness, running the partner's Kraven Regna means you get token generation, card advantage, and a sacrifice outlet in the command zone. So 2 out of the 3 pieces needed for an Aristocrats deck. But they aren't nearly as powerful as other commanders. Earlier I mentioned my wife's Laisa Forgotten Angel deck runs hardly any token generators, and relies on Laisa's ability to bring sacrificed creatures back from the graveyard. On top of running cards like Grave Pact, this makes Plaguecrafter and effects like him absolutely brutal to play against. If you're wanting a truly nasty Aristocrats deck, you may want to lean towards her instead. Having card advantage in the command zone is a great strategy, regardless of what deck you're building. But with Aristocrats being a multi-headed 3-part combo, having one of those pieces in the command zone really helps smooth out your deck. At the end of the day, it's up to you how you want to build your Aristocrats deck. I have my preferred method, and so does Cute Stuff. What's your preferred way to play Aristocrats? Who's your favorite commander? Leave a comment below. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cute Stuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. One of the tiers is specifically set up for Commander. For only $25, I will build you a custom Commander deck based around your specifications, and even do a deck video on it. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Danny, Muffins, Marcus, Squishy, Brett, Roxy, Josh, Sean, Pob Zombie, Mark, Alex, Daniel, Steve, Kevin, Alex, Cookie, Nick, Borgie, Jake, Exiled Rogue, Medmen, and Manassas. You guys are awesome. I post new Commander deck videos often, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of new videos. Also, if you're a fan of anime and manga like I am, feel free to check out my other channel, Musings by Danon. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Commander by Danon.